Every YouTube review of this car repeats the exact same headline. With more than 450,000 cars sold, this EV is China's best-selling car. But raw sales figures from a, let's say, specialized domestic market tell you almost nothing about how the Geely EX2 will perform in the rest of the world. So America buried Chinese EVs under crazy tariffs, and Europe stacked on heavy import taxes, but Australia left the gate wide open. And as a result, we've got this. A small electric Chinese hatchback with 5 seats and insane value. While this price is here to stay, there's a much bigger story brewing behind the scenes, but I'll get to that later in the video. You see, on paper, this promises to be a very fun car. Rear-wheel drive, multi-link rear suspension, and it's an EV, which means instant torque. Those are all the ingredients you need for this car to be classic P-plate hoodlum territory. Only thing is, this car has one crucial problem. It's slow. The EX2 is not a successor to the Ford Focus hot hatch, but after driving it for a week, despite its abysmal acceleration, there are some genuinely impressive features hidden below this $26,500 hatchback. This is a very cute car, so of course it comes in a range of very fun colours, and they have equally fun names: Nova Pink, Nebula Beige, and this Aurora Green, which reminds me of mint ice cream, and I love mint ice cream. There is a baby blue offered overseas, but unfortunately it's not available here yet. Now, I said this was a $26,500 car, but this one is actually $31K plus on roads because it's the top spec version, which is very important to note a little bit later on. Anyway, being the pricier one, this one gets 16-inch alloy wheels, that contrasting black roof, and other gear like rain-sensing wipers and an electric tailgate. I am going to show you how slow this car is when we hit the road, but first let's touch on the interior, which is surprisingly spacious given it's only the same size as something like a Toyota Yaris. This interior and the leather-appointed seats you see here are black, and that's the standard colour. But if you go for the Inspire, which is this top spec model, you can option a white interior and white leather-appointed seats. If you get the Inspire, as I said, and if you're brave and clean. Overall, interior first impressions are very good. As I mentioned, this is not a performance car, but I thought while the sun's out, I can sit at this nice park bench and we can talk about its rivals really quickly. I'm talking about cars like the BYD Atto 1, the Dolphin, or the GAC Ion UT. For starters, none of those cars come in rear-wheel drive, so the EX2 has a unique selling point there. But if you look at a more granular level, so the base models of the EX2 against the Atto 1 or the GAC Ion UT, both of the last two cars are more powerful than the base model of this car. So, you know, depends on what you really want. You've also got to factor in the Atto 1 is smaller and it's only got 4 seats, whereas all of the others like this have 5 seats. Then you've got the MG4, which is rear-wheel drive, but it's also $10,000 more than this car. Then there's driving range. The base EX2 comes with a claimed 250 kilometers of driving range, whereas this one is a claimed 345 kilometers of driving range. Recharging speeds aren't fantastic. This one can charge at a maximum DC rate of 80 kilowatts, which means 10 to 80% charge will take you around 35 minutes. But that's pretty standard for most of the competition. The EX2 has been a sales juggernaut in China, where EVs are selling in huge numbers. But that's not because people in China really want to drive an EV. It's because the government in many major cities makes it really expensive and really difficult to register a petrol car. So they jack up the rego prices and people are basically priced out of anything but an EV. And that is a big part of this car's success story. But enough about politics. Earlier, I mentioned that there was something brewing in the background. So it's time that we talk about Ford. Yes, Ford. Geely and Ford recently struck a deal and they've promised to jointly develop a new model. And that brings us back to this car. Currently, super popular in China. But if it had a blue oval badge on the bonnet, would it be super popular everywhere else? World's best-selling car? Okay, probably not. Front-wheel drive hot hatches like the Ford Fiesta and the Ford Focus earned their reputation by being genuinely fun to drive. I actually went to my Year 12 formal in my uncle's Focus RS. That car was mega. But this is something very different. Now, obviously, the EX2 is a very different machine. After all, it's electric and it's rear-wheel drive. But I've got to say, it's a lot more fun than I expected. I know I said it was slow, and it is. It takes about 11 seconds to hit 100 kilometers an hour. And if you go for the one below this, the base model, it takes about 15 seconds to do the same. But if you're just tootling around town and around the suburbs, it's actually zippy and nimble and really easy to drive. This is far from hot hatch territory. The steering, it's a little bit too light and too vague for my liking anyway. And even when you pop it into sport mode to maybe help firm it up, it just doesn't do anything. Not that I can feel anyway. Overall though, I'm pretty pleased with how this drives dynamically, and especially at this price point. The other thing I can't help but notice, and it was actually one of the first things I noticed, is how quiet it is in this cabin. It shouldn't be this quiet. All you hear is a little bit of whirring from the electric motor. And then, if you're driving like a little bit of a hooligan, you can hear the tires scrubbing around on the road, but that's it. The ride is way more refined than I expected. It's really nicely damped. That means if you hit a big pothole or a big bump in the road, it kind of just glides over and smooths things out without crashing through the cabin. So overall, I'm really quite liking this. Now, in terms of braking regen, we've got auto, low, medium, and high, but there's no one-pedal driving here like you get on some other EVs. So on its highest setting now, I've just come off the throttle and yeah, it takes quite a while to slow down. There's also a little bit of a delay there. So if you're accelerating, then you get off. Yeah, it's definitely not a one-pedal feel. If you've tried that, don't expect that here. But there is a fairly nice level of regen there, just not a super instantaneous, responsive one. You'll have to use the brake pedal a fair bit. Look, most people are going to use this car primarily around town, around the city, around suburbia, things like that. This is not the kind of car you buy to go hurtling around country roads and down the freeway. It can still do that, of course, but for what this car is supposed to do, it does that very well. The driving experience is only dampened by its overzealous driver aids, but even those annoying bings and bongs can be quickly switched off via a quick shortcut setup in the swipe down menu. All you have to do is press drive setup and there, they're switched off, thankfully. In terms of efficiency, Geely quotes a combined energy consumption of 15.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers in this car. Strangely, this top spec car is claimed to be more efficient than the base model, even though it's heavier. On test, we beat that claim, averaging 14.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers after some fairly enthusiastic driving. In the real world, you can expect less than 300 kilometers of range on a full charge, depending, of course, on how and where you drive. And that's for this top spec model. Now that we've established what it's like to drive, let's dive a little deeper into the cabin. So these seats, they are heated and they're powered, which is really nice. One thing I noticed about these powered seats is that you can't sit super low in the cabin. That's not necessarily a bad thing, especially if you're a pretty short person. You're going to appreciate the fact that you're perched up quite high. I personally would like to be able to sit a little bit lower, but at the moment, the powered seat, yeah, that's as far as it goes down. I've got plenty of headroom, so yeah, anyone, probably 6 foot is going to be totally fine in here as well. But yeah, I just would like to feel a little bit more down and lower. But either way, where I am now, there's a really good amount of outward vision. And I think that's probably the point. This is going to be great for shorter drivers. The steering wheel as well, there's plenty of adjustment here to how close or far away you can get. So the steering wheel, under the steering column here, you just pull the little lever down and it's got a tilt, can you see that? Tilt and reach adjust, which is good. Again, not every small budget city car has the ability to do both the reach and the tilt. It's sometimes just the tilt. As I said, the front seats are heated, but the steering wheel is also heated, and that is a big win. A heated steering wheel is not something you'd normally expect in, well, I guess this price point, but also in this segment. This is the small car segment. These are cheap, cheerful city cars. This one has a heated steering wheel. That is very cheerful to me. I love that. Speaking of cheaper options, there are some nice touches in here that you're not going to find on cheaper options. So the doors and all the materials are, I mean, they feel budgety, but they're not too bad. That's plastic, but down here you've got a nice soft touch, sort of faux leather material. This is all sort of scratchy plastic, fair enough. But you've got these nice little patterns in the door here, just in the dash here as well, if you can see that. It's much more obvious at nighttime because this is actually a little illumination, and you can change the color of the ambient lighting to suit your mood or your tastes. Pink perhaps to match your Nova pink machine. That's what I'd be doing if it was my car. Another thing I want to mention is the fact that Geely says there are 30 storage areas dotted around this car. Now, if you think I'm going to go and count all of those, you'd be correct, because I did. And I think there's been some very clever or maybe a little bit deceptive marketing going on there, because I can only count 17. Oh, and if you notice this little interior camera and think, ooh, selfie camera, think again. This camera is part of the e-call or emergency call function. And Geely tells us if you have an incident, the camera will send data to its supplier, whoever that is, including the number of occupants on board and whether they had seatbelts on or the airbags were deployed, all those kinds of important information. Geely says it's only active when there is a collision or the e-call button is pressed, but I don't know about that. How do we know that's not running all the time? So as you can see, it's quite a minimalist, nicely laid out cabin. And again, it doesn't feel like a city car. Yeah, I'm a fan. Now let's talk tech, because the tech in this thing is another highlight, and especially this massive touchscreen. It's not only big, but the graphics are really, really good. Let me show you. It's super clear, and look, it's not the most responsive unit all the time. There was a couple of occasions where I've pressed something and it takes a second or two to do anything, but it has just about all the tech you'd need. There's smartphone mirroring, navigation, digital radio. There's even a camping mode, although I don't know how many people are actually going to need the camping mode, but I guess you could use it maybe as a relaxation mode. So there's a few buttons down here, but pretty much all of the controls are in the central touchscreen, which a lot of cars have these days. So you've got to kind of get used to it, unfortunately. All the climate control functions are just down here, although you do have the recirculation button and the demister here as well, but fan on off if you want that. Yeah, you've got to come in here to do a deeper dive, and that's where you'll find your seat heating, which is a little bit confusing to me. It's a little bit back to front. So this is the driver's seat, that's the passenger seat, but you might think if you're sat over there that that's the passenger seat because the steering wheel looks like it could be in front of either seat. Anyway, whatever. It's got it, so that's the nice thing. And you can set it to auto, which means it'll just come on when it is cold outside. And it did that last night when I went for a drive, and I thought that was really nice because I didn't have to turn it on myself. But the good thing is, like most cars, it's got a pretty decent voice assist function. It can't do everything just yet. So it can set the fan, speed or the temperature for you. But I don't know if it can do, let's try. Hey, Geely. Hey, Geely.
What can I do for you?
Turn on driver's seat heating.
Okay, the seat heater the driver's is now on.
Oh, well, there you go. See, it does that. Go away now. Driver assistance aids can be really annoying in lots of modern vehicles, but a lot of car companies are now starting to include shortcut buttons or ways to turn them off really quickly, because you only need to go 1 kilometre over the speed limit in a lot of these cars and it'll just start beeping at you consistently. obsessively. It's crazy. Now, the way to do it in the Geely EX2 is a swipe down of the menu here and drive setup. So it's already configured it to be, you know, what most people would consider much more preferable. So you can hit enter or just leave it, and now it's turned off, or at least turned down a lot of the really annoying driver aids. The driver monitoring is a separate one altogether, although I haven't found that too annoying. If you're driving and, you know, looking straight ahead, obviously it's fine. But even if you just glance down and try and, you know, change the aircon settings or something like that, it will still beep at you on some occasions. But overall, it hasn't been too bad. And I really like the fact that you can just switch that on and off. So that's back on and then turn it all off. Thank you. And then, of course, you can dive deeper into, which menu is it? The driver assist. There you go. And so you can kind of set up or configure what you want it to tell you or to not tell you. There's driver state detection we can turn off and play with the various settings there. You've got to do it every time you get in the car though, so it is a little bit of a hassle to have to do it every time, but I mean, that's the price you pay with modern cars with all this technology, so not exclusive to this car. For a small car, the EX2's second row is very impressive. So a decent amount of headroom because that roof is quite high. You don't get a center armrest, but you do get some pretty decent sized door bins down there, and you've got map pockets on either side. You've obviously got a flat floor being an EV, so legroom is pretty good, but I do find that my knees are a little bit higher than I might like because the rear bench could probably go a little bit deeper, but you know, it's pretty comfortable back here. And yeah, you probably wouldn't want to be super tall, but I've got enough headroom. I'm 166 centimeters tall. Yeah, it's a pretty nice place to be. And you've got these nice little touches here as well. You've got these in the front as well, and they actually light up at night time. All right, let's recap. For what this car costs, it's very impressive. It looks cute, feels spacious, it's easy to drive and comes with heaps of tech. But it also has its shortfalls. It's not very powerful and it doesn't go all that far on a single charge. So who should buy this car? Well, if you value creature comforts, clever packaging, and you just want a car that's easy to live with and doesn't cost too much, this could be a very good car for you. But if you want long distance driving range, razor sharp dynamics, and ultra fast charging, then you should probably look elsewhere. For everyone else, the Geely EX2 punches well above its weight. Let me know what you think about it in the comments and whether you would actually consider one. $30,000 for that? It's pretty cute. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to have your say in the comments. Would you consider buying an EX2, or have you already put an order in for one?